I'm certainly proud of how I broke the story of the Olympic snub, that the USA basketball was not going to be putting Caitlin Clark, the biggest name in the history of the sport, and I've kept reporting it. And so I have new details, for example, that USA basketball was going to try to give her a consolation prize, even before they officially announced that she wasn't on the 5-on-5 team. Whether she deserved to be or not, she is, in terms of the fan interest and the appeal. They were not going to put her on the Olympic team. So I broke that story June 7th of 2024.
Did the WNBA sabotage their own future by turning Caitlin Clark's arrival into a nightmare? The league had a golden opportunity to change everything with Clark's mainstream appeal. Yet shocking new evidence reveals how jealousy and incompetence derailed it all. Stay tuned to find out the inside story that USA Today's Christine Brennan uncovered.
I'm proud of that. You know, I've covered the WNBA the length of its existence in one way or another, including TV hits where I would talk about them in the bubble. Everyone's talking about the NBA and their social advocacy, Black Lives Matter. They were going to try to put her on the 3-on-3 team, which is that kind of fun, funky version of basketball that's in the Olympics. And she didn't want any part of that, which I don't blame her, because it's not the same thing at all. And I would mention, oh, you know, by the way, let's not forget the WNBA. They're actually doing maybe even more than the NBA. That kind of thing. Columns, some coverage, Lifetime TV, sideline reporting in '99.
A story so explosive it's sparking debates about the league's survival. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Caitlin Clark wasn't just another basketball player transitioning into the pros. She came in as a phenomenon. Her unforgettable college run, including record-breaking performances and crowd-packed arenas, put her on the national radar like few athletes before her.
So I've been around it a long time, and I'm also proud to be able to give the reader a chapter called A League of Their Own, where I go through the history of the WNBA, because so few people know it. Now people are watching. And some fun history, too, about, for example, in Seattle, when they started their team there, and they needed to sell more season tickets to get going. The coach of the team was dribbling through the streets of Seattle. But in general, while there were great reporters covering it, it got short shrift in our mainstream sports media. So that chapter include columns that I wrote.
But what made her so exciting wasn't just her scoring ability. It was her almost magnetic appeal to fans who didn't usually follow women's basketball. Sports bars were suddenly airing her games, and people who rarely glanced at the WNBA were now talking about her nonstop. You'd think the league would have seen this as a gift-wrapped opportunity to go mainstream, right? Well, that's where things went wrong, very wrong.
And in the history of the WNBA, is it that the league was foundering and then Caitlin Clark came along, or the league was developing an audience and gaining momentum?
The Mystics, I've been to many Mystics games, covered them in the playoffs, and it would be fun when they were at Capital One Arena before they moved to their small little arena over past Nats Park. Yeah, I think more the latter, Major, to be honest. It had its place, and it certainly had its fans. And for example, here we are in Washington, D.C., and
According to journalist Christine Brennan, what happened next wasn't just about missed opportunities. An undercurrent of resentment toward Clark's rise began brewing, and it came from places you wouldn't expect. Brennan's sources reveal that some established WNBA players, yes, the league's veterans, viewed her as more of a disruption than a driving force.
And of course, with Caitlin Clark, they're moving to the big arenas because they want to have 20,000 fans, not 4,200. But back before that arena, when they were in the big arena, they would have like camp days, and they'd have girls in T-shirts. The pitch and the sound of cheering is so different from your average, male-dominated sports crowd, right? So the WNBA had its following. It didn't need our sympathy, and you'd have thousands of girls watching these heroes, right? They're role models. And it's so interesting when you're at a game where most of the fans are probably like 12 and under, and they happen to be girls.
Critical comments about Clark came not just from random corners of the internet, but from within the league itself. The tone? Less, welcome to the WNBA, and more, prove you belong here. And it didn't stop there. Clark had to navigate overly physical play and some outright questionable officiating in her first professional games, almost as if she were being sent a message.
So yeah, I think it was coming along. Superstars, you know the names because you're a big sports fan, but your average person, you know, like they're talking about Caitlin Clark in the produce section right now somewhere, guaranteed that she's coming back, you know, she's going to be back.
Think about this. What if, back in the 80s, the NBA had reacted to Michael Jordan's popularity with this same dismissiveness? Imagine players bitter over his rise, or the league refusing to market him properly because it might step on some toes. How different would basketball, and sports in general, look today? That's essentially what's happening now in the WNBA. Brennan points out that instead of protecting Clark and positioning her as the face of the league, the WNBA stumbled on several fronts. No aggressive marketing campaigns, poorly timed games that disrupted momentum, and even worse, no clear plan to shield her from the rough treatment she faced on the court. Clark brought non-traditional audiences, men, casual sports fans, even first-time viewers, right into WNBA games. But rather than using her momentum, the league seemed almost caught off guard by it. Brennan's investigation makes it clear this isn't just a missed moment. It's a pattern that could hold the entire league back. And sadly, this was just one part of the problem. The problem with the WNBA isn't just the jealousy toward Caitlin Clark. It's the leadership failing to recognize what she represents. Clark is a bridge between hardcore basketball fans and people who wouldn't usually tune in. Whether it's a casual sports fan catching highlights or someone brand new to the game, her appeal is undeniable. But instead of preparing for this, the league seemed caught off guard. In Christine Brennan's words, the WNBA's efforts to market Clark's arrival didn't even meet the most basic expectations. The merch rollout flopped. There wasn't a real attempt to lock in TV deals or major sponsorships. For a rookie generating more hype than all but a handful of players in league history, that's almost unbelievable. What's wild is that examples of how to handle this situation already exist. The PGA Tour embraced Tiger Woods, using his dominance to bring in new audiences and money to the sport. Or take Michael Jordan in the NBA. Sure, he was a once-in-a-lifetime talent, but without the league's strategic moves to build around him, basketball wouldn't be where it is today. The WNBA, though, they hesitated. They worried about the balance of attention in the league. They underestimated Clark's ability to do more than just bring fans to her own games. She could have brought millions of new eyes to the entire league. And then there's the cultural piece. Let's not pretend this wasn't complicated. Clark coming into a league where most players are black wasn't just a sports story. It was about representation and what that means in a heavily scrutinized space. Instead of addressing how she fit into that or celebrating the way her appeal might expand the league, the leadership stayed silent. It came off as fearful and out of sync.